But let's start off with a question from @DDWag. If USC wins at the Big House on Saturday, what percentage chance would you give of the following? USC in the Big Ten title game, USC winning the Big Ten, USC making the college football playoff, USC winning the national title. So, Ari, let's start with the first question. If USC were to beat Michigan on Saturday, what would you put their chances at of making the Big Ten title game?
See, when I read this question, Andy, I got a little bit nervous because I think there's a way that you can mess up the math here. So I'm going to try my best to not screw it up as you go down the line. So percentage chances of making the Big Ten championship game. Well, I'm happy we're talking about USC because I got a takeoff yesterday. I was out on USC and now I'm starting to creep my way back in. They picked up a receiver, 5-star receiver commitment on Wednesday out of Utah. Things are working for them. Their defense seems to be fixed. Making the Big Ten championship game is a really good proposition for them because if you've paid attention to USC's schedule this year, they don't play Ohio State or Oregon in the regular season. And I believe the Michigan game and Notre Dame games are much more manageable to picture right now with the way the season's going. So they still have to go on the road to Washington, but their biggest game of the year turns into a home game against Penn State, a game that I think that they could actually win. So I would say that they have at least a 60% chance if they win against Michigan of making the Big Ten championship game.
I basically put it at 50 because I think if they beat Michigan, the Penn State game probably becomes a 50-50 proposition. If you win that game, you're probably going to get in because the Notre Dame game doesn't matter for the Big Ten championship. So that's not even a relevant discussion. The only question I have at that point, I think the Nebraska game, which is in the Coliseum, might be challenging because we don't exactly know what Nebraska is yet, but we think they might be pretty good. But I think if you can beat Penn State, you should feel very, very good about making the Big Ten championship game. So I basically, if they beat Michigan, I put it at 50-50 to make the Big Ten championship game. You may be more right than me, though. I think it actually may be a little bit higher because there's even a possibility you lose that Penn State game and you run the table the rest of the way in the Big Ten and you're feeling very good about your chances. Then you're just probably dealing with a head-to-head situation and a tiebreaker situation, depending on how things go for Oregon and Ohio State.
And they play each other, so that one of them is going to have a loss.
Correct. And so now potentially messy tiebreaker scenarios coming in there, but we knew that. We knew that was possible. But so let's move on to winning the conference. What percentage, if they beat Michigan, what percentage would you give them to win the conference?
10%.
But we got to talk about the money game. Inside look at LSU at the dawn of the NIL era. You get insider access to Jayden Daniels, to Livvy Dunne, to Angel Reese, and you learn how they navigated the NIL marketplace, how they dealt with all the pressures of everything. It's fascinating. 6-part series on Prime Video. If you're already a Prime Video subscriber, you click that link in our show description, whether it's on podcast or on YouTube, it'll take you right to the money game. You start watching. If you're not already a Prime Video subscriber, you click that same link. It'll take you to get signed up. And you're going to want to be signed up anyway because you get NFL games on Thursday nights. You get shows like The Rings of Power. You get Fallout. If you haven't watched Fallout, it's amazing. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But the money game is right up the alley of the folks who watch this show. So I'm telling you right now, I've binged it. It's awesome. You're going to love it too. Hit that link in the show description. Watch the money game on Prime Video. Okay, you went lower than me. I just multiplied the 50% chance I was giving them to make the title game. Because my thing is, if they make the Big Ten title game, they're good. So I'd actually feel pretty confident with them against, let's say, an Oregon or Ohio State. And so I just said, let's make that a 50-50 also. So I did 50% times 50% is 25%.
Is that how the math works there?
That is how I'm going to have to ask my 8th grader, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe 10's a little bit low. I just have a hard time envisioning that they're going to be able to beat whoever they're facing in that game right now. So I want to temper myself. I wrote a column on On3 on Wednesday saying that they're giving us a reason to pay attention again, but I don't want to go all the way back in yet. I'm very excited to watch this game, and I think it's possible that they'll be able to score on anybody. And who knows who they're facing at the end of the road. But in my mind right now, their opponent would be Ohio State. And I think that making the Big Ten championship game is going to be a pretty tough proposition to begin with. But like, if they were to play Ohio State tomorrow, what would your percentage chances of them winning the game be? It would be pretty like 1 out of 10, maybe.
Well, I kind of need to see the Michigan game first.
Yeah. So I'm being a little conservative here, but I do think that the percentages are going to go up on the next question.
Okay, the next question is, what are their chances of making the college football playoff? And I'm with you. So what would you say that percentage chance is if they beat Michigan?
I would say 45%.
Okay, you went lower than me. I said 50% again, and I actually think it might be higher than that because I think but basically I picked 50% because if you can make the Big Ten title game, you can make the college football playoff. Now, they still might lose to Notre Dame, which would affect their college football playoff resume. But, if they beat Penn State, well, let's say they go undefeated in the Big Ten, they're definitely in. If they lose one in the Big Ten and lose to Notre Dame, they're probably still in, depending on where Notre Dame is. But I could be losing 2 bets in that case.
I've also got to keep some structural integrity here because I can't have a show on Wednesday where I say Notre Dame has a chance to win out and then give USC a win in that game. I think that USC could probably be in the Big Ten championship game as a 10-2 team and then end up 10-3, which might knock them out at the end. So like 45%, I think is a pretty fair number. I'm not 100% certain that they're going to beat Notre Dame at the end of the year. I'm certainly not certain they're going to beat Penn State. And hell, we're not certain that they're going to beat Michigan this weekend. But if they do beat Michigan, which I think they will, they are in a pretty good position to make that college football playoff. And I think 45%, given where we started this year, is a hell of an improvement in a 3-week period.
Yeah. I think my outlook on them is brightened considerably. Now, if they go to the Big House and lay an egg, it's obviously very different. And I think that's what's most intriguing about this game, Ari, is we really don't know. And we don't know what Michigan's going to be because they're changing quarterbacks. This is Sharon Moore saying, you know what, perhaps I was too hasty starting Davis Warren, even though clearly they had kind of been preparing for an Alex Orji-led offense for most of the offseason. So this is probably the offense that we were expecting to see and that they were working toward for most of the offseason. So I don't know if that's going to be any better or not. I have no idea. And that's the beauty of this. Like, I'm so excited to sit down and watch that game on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to it. I got to figure out what time this game starts. It's at 2:30 p.m. All right, so I'll be in Norman in front of a TV, maybe some popcorn. I'll be ready to go.
Yeah,
white cheddar.
Yeah. As Goat Dog says, you'll be preparing for an orgy. Won't we all?
Yeah.